Lionel Messi sat at a microphone inside Camp Nou on August 8, 2021, and started crying before he said a single word. Not like a little tear, the man was gone, sobbing, in front of his family, in front of cameras, in front of the whole world. And he hadn't even spoken yet. When he finally pulled himself together enough to talk, he said, "I wasn't prepared. This is the most difficult moment of my career." Now here's the thing that makes this so insane. Messi had already agreed to take a 50% pay cut just to stay. Cut his salary in half. The greatest player alive, willing to take half his money just to stay at the only club he'd ever known. They still told him no. Not because they didn't want him, they literally could not afford him. And that press conference, that moment right there, that was Barcelona finally admitting out loud what had been true for years. That they had quietly destroyed themselves. And Messi leaving was just the world finding out. So let's talk about how it actually happened. Before anything else, you have to understand what Messi was to this club. Not just as a player, as an identity. 10 La Liga titles. 4 Champions Leagues, 672 goals in 778 games. He joined at 13. His kids were born in Barcelona. He'd never played for anyone else in his life. Barcelona without Messi wasn't just a worse team, it was a different club entirely. Like the whole brand, the shirts, the sponsors, the global fan base, a massive chunk of that was built on him. So when he left, 2 things happened at once. The football got worse, and the financial reality that he'd been covering up had nowhere to hide anymore. This didn't start in 2021. The seeds of this were planted in 2017, the summer Neymar left for PSG. PSG paid €222 million for Neymar, world record fee. And Barcelona got that money sitting in their account and just lost their minds. They needed to replace him, right? Fine. But instead of being smart about it, they panicked. And panic buying in football is basically lighting money on fire and calling it a transfer strategy. First, they went and got Ousmane Dembélé from Dortmund. €105 million up front. But by the time you add all the bonuses and add-ons, that deal ended up costing around €148 million. And Dortmund knew exactly what they were doing. They knew Barcelona had just pocketed €222 million and were desperate. So they squeezed them. Dembélé's time at Barcelona? Injuries. Constant injuries. There were reports that his diet was terrible, that he was staying up until 4 a.m. playing video games, showing up late to training. He eventually came out and said it himself. "I wasted 5 years of my life." Then 6 months later, January 2018, they went and got Coutinho from Liverpool, €160 million. He never even got close to what he was doing at Liverpool. Eventually, Barcelona sold him to Aston Villa for €20 million. 20. They paid 160, sold him for 20. And then on top of all that, Griezmann, €120 million. So just those 3 players alone, Dembélé, Coutinho, Griezmann, cost Barcelona somewhere around €385 million. And none of them ever performed the way the price tag demanded. Now here's where it gets actually crazy. While all of this is happening, in 2017, they also renewed Messi's contract. And that contract paid him €555 million over 4 years. That's about €139 million a year. So they're spending hundreds of millions on players that flop, and paying their star man €139 million a year, and at one point their wage bill was literally 102% of their total income. They were spending more than they earned, just on wages, before transfers, before running costs, before anything. Then the pandemic hit, and whatever was left of the plan fell apart completely. Camp Nou went dark. No fans, no matchday revenue, no stadium tours, nothing. A club that size depends heavily on what happens on match days. Hospitality boxes, ticket sales, all of it. And for over a year, none of that existed. They posted a net loss of 97 million euros in 2019-20 alone. And that was just the start. By the time Bartomeu, their president at the time, resigned in October 2020 before he could be voted out, the club's total debt was sitting at 1.35 billion euros. He resigned, left a letter behind saying it wasn't his fault, and then the next guy had to walk into that. Laporta walks into a disaster. Joan Laporta came back as president in March 2021. He'd been president before, won 2 Champions Leagues in his first run. People were excited. They thought he was the guy to fix it. What he found when he actually looked at the books was a 1.35 billion euro debt, with 730 million euros of that due within the next 12 months. And then La Liga dropped their financial fair play numbers for the season. Real Madrid's wage cap for 2021-22, 739 million euros. Barcelona's, 97.9 million euros. 739 versus 97. That gap right there. That's the gap between a functioning football club and a club in crisis. Barcelona couldn't spend, couldn't register players properly, couldn't do anything. They needed Piqué to take a pay cut just to register 2 new signings. They still couldn't register Sergio Aguero at all. And Messi, who had already agreed to cut his salary in half, still couldn't be registered under La Liga's rules. Laporta came out and said it publicly. It is impossible for us to keep Messi due to La Liga regulations and our economic situation. And that was it. The press conference. August 8th, 2021. Messi walks out, his family in the seats, cameras everywhere. He sits down and he breaks. I don't know if I'll be able to speak. It still hasn't sunk in that I'm leaving this club, that my life will be changing completely. He said his whole family had been convinced they were staying. He said he reduced his salary and it still didn't work. He said he was blindsided. And then he signed for PSG, for free, 0 transfer fee. A player worth €500 million walked out the door, and Barcelona got nothing. What happened on the pitch? If you thought it couldn't get worse on the field, it got worse on the field. 2021-22 Champions League. Barcelona finished 3rd in their group, knocked out before the round of 16. First time that had happened since 2003-2004. They lost 3-0 to Bayern, lost to Benfica, got dumped into the Europa League. Then the next season, 2022-23, same thing. Knocked out at the group stage again, lost 3-0 to Bayern at home, again. Their own 19-year-old midfielder, Pedri, came out after and said, "It's a failure. We don't deserve to be in the Champions League. We lack many things." A teenager, telling the truth that the club's leadership wasn't willing to say. 2 consecutive group stage exits, the 5-time Champions League winners. Playing Europa League football twice. The levers, borrowing from the future. So what was Laporta's plan through all of this? He called it economic levers. What that actually means is they started selling off future income to generate money now. Future TV rights, stake in their media production company, raised over €800 million doing this. They also took a €500 million emergency loan from Goldman Sachs in May 2021. Goldman advanced them €100 million immediately, just so Barcelona could pay players their salaries before the season ended. And then, this is the part that made people genuinely worried. They took that financial breathing room and went out and spent almost £200 million on new players. Lewandowski, Rafinha, Koundé, while still over $1 billion in debt. Critics called it gambling with the club's future. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that. In 2023, Barcelona borrowed another €1.5 billion to renovate Camp Nou, which meant they had to play at the smaller Montjuic Stadium for 18 months, losing an estimated €150 million in matchday revenue in the process. To fix their debt problem, they went deeper into debt. You can't make this up. The truth in 2025. By late 2025, an opposition candidate ahead of Barcelona's presidential election commissioned an independent audit. And what came out was brutal. Total debt, €4.12 billion, the highest in European football history. A 293% increase since 2021. The report accused the current administration of accounting manipulation, claiming over €380 million had been entered into the accounts without a real basis. Not reducing actual debt, just making it look better than it was. The report said directly, pretending the numbers balance is not saving the club, it is deceiving it. So, the club that couldn't afford the greatest player alive allegedly had the books doctored. And their debt didn't shrink, it multiplied. 4 times over. Here's the thing nobody wants to say, but is probably true. Barcelona didn't fall apart because Messi left. Messi left because Barcelona had already fallen apart. They just had him on the pitch long enough to delay everyone noticing. The moment he was gone, there was nothing left to hide behind. No superstar to point to. No magic to cover the cracks. Just €1 billion debt, 2 Champions League group stage exits in a row, and a press conference that nobody who watched it will ever forget. Now, if you want to know whether they actually come back from this, whether the Lamine Yamal generation can genuinely rebuild what Bartomeu destroyed, subscribe and turn notifications on, because that video is next. And drop a comment. Do you think Barcelona win the Champions League again in the next 5 years? I genuinely want to know. If you're new here, welcome. Like the video if it was worth your time. See you in the next one.